justice. No justice. No justice. No justice. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? 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 We won't forget. We won't forget. We won't forget. Yeah. 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 All right. Let me say, first of all, to all of us that have come out to stand in front of the Justice Department's Eastern District Courthouse today. We are here because the assumption by those in power is that when something happens, we will be angry for a few weeks and then move on. Then they will start pitting us against each other. And we start fighting about who is doing something rather than getting something done. And by the time you get down a couple of months, you have more infighting in the movement than the movement fighting our collective enemies. We wanted to come today to say 1 year and 1 day later that just like we stood on the first Saturday after Eric Garner was choked to death, we stand together today by the hundreds saying we don't care how long it takes. We want justice for Eric Garner. We can't breathe and we need to breathe. Labor and civil rights groups and young activists, old activists, half-dead activists, white, black, Latino, Asian, gay, straight, undecided, we all here together. Now, the importance of that is we knew from day one that we had a no chance to get an indictment in Staten Island. They keep talking about the grand jury turned us down. We don't even know what the grand jury saw because they won't release the minutes. We know the politics of local grand juries. We know that grand juries are guided by prosecutors. And even the chief judge say you can prosecute a ham sandwich if you want. Well, it means you cannot prosecute one if you want. We weren't looking for nothing there. But just like they like to remember the 60s, well, let's talk about the 60s. They like to talk about Dr. King. I co-chaired the anniversary of the March on Washington. I co-chaired 40th anniversary of his assassination with his children. So let's talk about Dr. King. Dr. King and those in the South could not depend on the local law enforcement. They had to appeal to the federal government and the Justice Department to bring them justice in Alabama and Georgia. We come today to say we cannot depend on local law enforcement. In the name of Dr. King and others, we're asking the federal government to come in and bring justice for Eric Garner. Isn't it interesting? Garner was the first case, and then Ferguson, and on and on. When it got to North Charleston with the Scott case, Walter Scott, and we headed down there, the mayor and the prosecutor arrested that policeman that day and charged him, which means the South is moving quicker than the North. And New York and Baltimore and other places, the North has got to catch up. And the only way it will catch up is if the federal government respects the civil rights of its citizens. Eric Garner had the civil right to stand on that street and not be choked to death by law enforcement. He had the civil right that when he said, "I can't breathe," to expect that law enforcement would take their arms off of his throat and release him and let him live. Eric Garner had the civil right to expect that first responders would respond to his medical condition laying on that street. We need federal intervention on the civil rights of Eric Garner. We also just saw the fight about the flag in South Carolina. When I went to the funerals and spoke at one, the governor there turned and said they're going to take the flag down. But what about right here in New York? Right here in Bklyn, on a military base, Fort Hamilton, there's a street named after Robert E. Lee, the general of the Confederate Army. And they say, well, we named the street to reconcile and bring us together. How can you reconcile with the general of a treason army? How can you reconcile with one that fought to keep us enslaved and gave the right to lynch? You need to take that street down. We can't have that in New York. Why do we rally today? Why do we march? Because the flag wouldn't have came down if we hadn't rallied. The governor did the right thing with a special prosecutor, but we've got to keep it, and they won't keep it if we don't rally, and he wouldn't have done it had we not rallied. They're putting cameras on police in other cities because of the Garner movement. We will not stop rallying. We will not stop marching. We will not stop gathering. We will not stop coming together. 1 year later, we still here. You call us names, but we still here. You tried to scandalize us, but we still here. We are not going anywhere. Today is the birthday of Nelson Mandela. He sat in jail 27 years. We'll wait. We'll stand. We will not be turned around. I want to bring a lady that has stood and showed great strength and great courage from day one when we talked. She said, all I want is justice. They gave them a settlement this week, and I give credit that they did not make this family suffer through the indignities of a civil trial and settled it, nor the expense on the city. They'd rather spend $15 million fighting. But they went ahead and settled. But she called me the first thing, said, before I agree to this, I want you to know that money can never replace my husband, and money is not justice. And I want you to promise you're going to keep fighting no matter how much they give. I said, money never was justice. We got money settlements before. It ain't about that. None of us get any of that. The family gets that insured because they had the loss. New York did not donate something to these families. They lost something. You handled what was lost. And she's here and been here every day, been at every week's rally, and still coming, because this is settled in civil court. but it's not settled in the courts of justice. It's not settled on the streets of our community. It's not settled in the hearts of freedom fighters. I bring to you the widow of Eric Gardner, Sister Esau Snipes Gardner.
Oh my God. Ooh. I can't breathe. You know, I never prepare a speech. I always speak from my heart. And that's all I know how to do. I can't be nobody but me. And I just want to thank all you guys and everybody all over the United States, the world, that have supported me and my family, my children. And y'all keep me empowered to speak. I get nervous sometimes, but as soon as I see you guys' faces and I know that you're here to support me, I get really, really strong. You know, I feel like a bike with a kickstand. You know, I feel like a flat balloon until I see you. You inflate me and you make me larger than I could ever be. I would have never thought in a million years that I would be able to speak in front of all you people and do the things that I need to do for my husband. But he did everything he could to take care of me for the last 28 years. Whether it was sweeping a storefront or whatever he had to do, selling incense, t-shirts, whatever, to take care of me and my kids. He never abandoned me, not for 1 second. Did he ever stop loving me? And I will not stop loving him. And I will not stop fighting for him. And like Reverend said, I want to thank the Reverend Al Sharpton from the bottom of my heart. I always make the joke that he's my dad, but he's my dad and they're my Nan family, and all you guys are my family now. And I love you guys, and thank you, and keep coming out to support, because as long as you support me, I'll keep fighting to get justice for Eric, Ramali, Mike, and all the rest. I can't remember too many names right now, but my heart is with you as well as your heart is with me. I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming out.
Esau Garner. Now we have the mothers coming a little later on the program, but I want you to know, showing the unity, this is the kind of person she is. Constance marched from her press conference, and we joined in calling for Southern District to indict on Ramali Graham, and marched here and is with us, Constance Malcolm, and we're going to hear from her. But I want y'all to know we're all working together. We're at Easton, but we support the effort for Ramali Graham. One of the most despicable acts we've seen, to shoot a young man in the bathroom of his house in front of his grandmother and his brother. We need to never let them at rest on Ramali Graham, and we're going to hear from them. But let me first bring one of the daughters of Eric Garner, who has become an activist reborn and started working diligently for justice for her father. She's now on staff at National Action Network, and she and Kirsten John Ford really coordinated today and said, I said, y'all think y'all can get a few hundred people? Well, look, y'all put the coalition together, and this has been a big gathering 1 year later. Let us hear from National Action Network staff member, daughter of Eric Garner, Emerald Garner.
Hello, everyone. I just want to first thank everyone for coming out. Like, this is beautiful. This is what keeps us going. This is what makes us want to get up and come out and fight for justice every day. It's the support from the community and the people all around the world. It is just amazing. We chose to take over this weekend for Eric Garner. So yesterday we did things, today we're doing things, tomorrow we're doing things, and I just want to thank everybody for their support. You know, we all can't be in the same place at one time, but we're all making a difference across the United States. My father was a family person, so I'm sure he's looking down at us and saying, wow, all of you guys came out to support us. My father always loved a big gathering or a big family function, or, you know, that's all we remember as children. So for this weekend, we decided to remember him for the person who he was, for the person he was, a family-oriented person, and of course, my father. And I had 22 years with him. I can sit and tell stories forever about my father. So I feel like it's my duty to share what he taught me with the world. So again, thank you so much for everyone and their support. I thank my Nan family. I thank everyone around the world. And I thank Reverend Sharpton especially, because he has been a big help to the family. If I call him, he pick up the phone, hey, what's going on? You know, I send an email, I call. Mr. Hardy has been in our corner from the beginning. And my time at National Action Network is not easy working with crisis, but I feel like it's my duty to help people who support us. So I just want to say thank you again. I love you guys, and thank you.
Now let us welcome a fighter, a warrior, a shero, the mother of Ramarley Graham, Sister Constance Malcolm.
Thank you, everybody. I want to say thank you for my 1199 family, because I'm part of 1199. I want to say thank you for everybody that's been supporting the Garner family. Also my family. It's been 3.5 years, and 1 year later, we're still here, and we have no justice for Erica Ramarley. It's a shame. We shouldn't have to wait 3.5 years or a year to get justice. We shouldn't have to fight for it in the manner that our loved one was killed. It's a shame. This country is coming, I don't know what it is coming to be honest. Because if you're in your own home, and a cop that you tell your kid to run to whenever they have a problem can break into your home without a warrant and kill them, I don't understand why the DOJ doesn't move swiftly and stop dragging their feet. Pre Baharo, I'm telling you, you need to move on this case right now. It's been 3.5 years. We are tired of waiting. Ramarley deserves justice. I deserve answer. I also have another family I want to recognize, the Jason Tharado family. His sister-in-law Nancy is here. Jason Tharado was murdered by an off-duty officer that was drinking in a bar with a DA. And there was a road rage. And he shot him and left for 19 hours and disappeared. And then came back and said he think he killed somebody. And he was never charged. So these are the problems we have to deal with. That's why we have to take away the power from the DA. And we did. We did it. We fought and we did it. All the moms came together and stand up and said, we ain't gonna take it no more. It wasn't for our kids. It wasn't for our loved ones. It's for your family that potential to be next. So we want to say, we just want to let it, we want a permanent. We want it to be permanent, not just for 1 year. And I also want to thank the Justice Committee and the Justice League for pushing and standing behind us, and Donna Lieberman. Thank you. Thank you. And we're going to keep on fighting because justice must prevail. Thank you.
Let us hear, this is a broad coalition, and we have since the first day of fighting for Eric Garner been joined arm in arm by the NAACP. We are supporting their 40-day march from Selma to Washington, but we know the one in New York that for decades has stood for justice. One of the things you do in coalitions is everybody does what they do best, and she organizes. I told George Gresham in 1199, they know how to get on the ground and organize. And I know how to get up on Saturday morning right before the rally and hold the rain back. Now I tell you now, when I say amen is over, run for your bus. Because I only got a short window now. I can't tell y'all what I did, but it don't last all day. Let us hear from the president of the New York State branches of the NAACP, Hazel Dukes.
The rain is going to come. I was with Reverend Sharpton this morning and he was teaching. How many of you was there? Well, I want to send a message out. Reverend did this morning. Reverend Sharpton and Reverend Dorcher. Where are you, Reverend Dorcher? Come over here. We've been together since Michael stood. Okay? So don't get it twisted. This is the justice people. We might have many names and look different, but we are together, and anybody try to separate us, that goes for the media. We will kick your rope because we stand together. Now let me tell you why we're here today. We are here in numbers because we know we can get justice if we stay together in unity. They hear our voice today. They see us out here today. We want the Justice Department to move. I believe that if the first sitting president went into a federal prison to see people that do not belong there, he is a father. He feels the pain of these mothers and these wives. These brothers and nephews have lost their loved one. I believe this is not a moment. This is a movement. And as we keep moving, we're going to get justice for all of these families. As long as it takes. I feel no ways tired. No ways tired. I will be here at every call. I will be here with my voice up and my feet, boots on the ground with 32 BJ, 1199, National Action Network, Donald Lieberman. We all going to stay the course. We asking you to stay with us. God bless you.
Doing justice. We fight on the local front for local charges. We fight on the federal front for federal charges. We fight for administrative justice when a city employee does something awry. And we also fight for civil recompense. But it's important not to conflate any of those. We've got to pursue justice on every front. In the state courts, in the federal courts, in the administrative courts and bodies, and in the civil courts. When you go for a civil fight, sometimes the city recognizes when they're outgunned. But we should not conflate what the city does to bring itself into line. We've got to focus on the other fronts. We can't focus on dollars and cents because that has nothing to do with justice. But it is important to recognize that when the city does something wrong, that this is the gentleman that brings the city to make it right. We want to receive our fighting comptroller, the comptroller of the city of New York, who stood with working families, who stood with the civil rights and the labor rights and the human rights community since the start of his career. I remember when he was a young man. He ain't so young no more, but he still got the spirit and the soul of a young fighter.
Let us receive Scott Stringer, Comptroller of the City of New York.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to start out by thanking my very, very good friend. He's like a father to me, sometimes a grandfather. Don't call me old. I got a 3.5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And they're not my grandkids, okay? That's right. I got the energy to do this job. That's right. Let me start by thanking Reverend Sharpton and Nan and all the labor unions, 1199, nurses, all the people who are bringing us together. Let's give a big round of applause to the coalition. Here's a point I just want to make today to all of you. Many of you I've marched with, many of you we have worked side by side for a very long time. I want to make it very clear that nobody should confuse the settlement with the need to deal with larger issues. It's not about the money. It was never about the money. It's about changing culture and marching forward together as we demand an equitable and just society that respects the rights of every citizen. That's what this is about. It's about one standard of justice for everyone. It's about making sure that our society, our wonderful city that speaks 170 languages from 200 countries can truly be aspirational to everybody. Affordable housing, real health care, economic justice. That is what we talk about when we think about the frontier. And let me just say, as we continue to march and demonstrate and agitate, this is not about white. This is not about black. This is not about brown. The next civil rights frontier is about green. It's about jobs. It's about elevating people so they can feed their families and people have a right to live in the city without being gentrified out. These are the issues that I believe Eric Garner would have wanted us to remember him by. These are the issues that we have to dedicate ourselves to. Or no settlement, no judgment, no court fight will matter unless we commit ourselves today to these issues. We must be champions in the memory of all who we have lost. All who we have lost. So I'm proud to be here with all of you. Proud to be here with the family and Reverend Sharpton and our partners in labor and activists and advocates. Let us commit ourselves to the justice for this city. We've got a lot more work to do. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
About 3 weeks after Eric Garner was choked, I got a call from a man in Ferguson, Missouri, and said they had shot and killed his grandson. When we marched in Staten Island by the thousands, we left and I went to Ferguson to preach that funeral, and we had the first rallies. One of the people that came in was the mother of Ramarley Graham. These mothers have stood together, and they come now with the mother of Eric Garner. Will you welcome the mother of Eric Garner, Gwen Carr, the mother of Trayvon Martin, and the mother of Michael Brown, Leslie McSpadden. Stand and watch these mothers stand together. We also, all the way from the West Coast, one of the cases that, in my opinion, shook this movement into high gear from Oscar Grant, Miss Johnson, mother of Oscar Grant. Come on, Sabrina Fulton. Let me bring Reverend Fulton on first. Mother of Trayvon Martin, Sabrina Fulton.
First of all, I want to thank you guys for coming out and continuing this fight because we can't do it alone. You understand that? We cannot do this. We can't fight this battle alone. And so we need you. Don't wait until something happens to your child. No, you didn't hear me the first time. Don't wait until something happens to your child. We can't afford to continue to lose our children. We have to stay active. We have to stay involved. We have to be encouraged regardless of what things look like in front of us. On behalf of Eric Garner's family, I want to stand to show support just as you want to stand to show support. Thank you for praying with us. Thank you for supporting us. Continue this fight. We have to continue this fight together. Thank you. That's right.
Let's hear from the Oscar Grant family, Miss Johnson from Oakland, California.
It is an honor to be here. I would like for you to repeat after me. I am Eric Garner. I am Trayvon Martin. I am Michael Brown. I am Rahali Graham. I am Oscar Grant. It could be you tomorrow. So it's up to us to stick together as one, to stand united as one, to fight for injustices that we face. Because we are somebody in Christ. We are somebody. On behalf of the Oscar Grant family and the foundation, we are just honored to be here with the Eric Garner family. We always say, keep fighting no matter what it looked like. It might get hard, but we're here to hold your arms up. We're here to fight with you because we're here in America and we have equal rights just like everyone else. And so we will continually fight because we understand that the race isn't given to the swift nor to the strong, but to the one who endures to the end. And we must continually endure. So keep fighting, keep fighting, keep pressing, keep moving, keep fighting.
I want to bring forward, she says she don't want to say nothing, but I want y'all to clap. She flew all the way from Ferguson, Missouri to be here with us. The mother of Michael Brown, Liz McSpadden. Give her a big hand. And we're going to be with her in 3 weeks. We're going out there with her in 3 weeks to stand for Michael Brown. Let us now stand together, all of y'all, as we hear from the mother of Eric Garner, who fought this fight for a year, who has not bent, buckled, or bowed, who stood here. We went twice and met with Justice Department. She said, I'm going to keep on coming until we get justice. She's here a year and a day later. The mother of Eric Garner, Gwen Carr.
Thank you, everyone. Thank all of you for coming out in this fight for justice. Well, you see my warriors behind me. Together we'll stand and we'll win this fight. They may knock us down, but they're not going to knock us out. Because we're going to endure to the end. Because we got big, strong leaders. We got Reverend Sharpton. You know, like he said, he got the mouth. We got the endurance. And all jokes aside, Reverend Sharpton has been there with us since the beginning, and he's going to be there for the end, to the end of the fight. And I thank each and every one of you for standing with us, because without you, we couldn't do this alone. We need your support, because we know next time it could be you or your son, and we hope we don't want no more members. No more members.
Let's say that. No more members. This club is full. It's closed. Okay? But continue to stand with us for justice. We got mothers that's been in this for 2 decades fighting for justice. I don't know how long. I'm going to be in here 2, maybe 3 decades. Okay? But thank you all. God bless you. May heaven smile on you today.
We are joined by someone that's no stranger. Before you bring on another elected, I want a lot of this was done with our coalition, young folk, old folk. One of our young leaders nationally grew up in National Action Network. I want to bring on Tamika Mallory, Justice League.
Brothers and sisters, how y'all doing out here today? Y'all ready to fight? Because we got to fight. After standing here and watching these mothers tell you about the loss of their children, how dare we go home and be comfortable dealing with the issues of our people, what is happening with young black men and women across this country. I stand here as an activist, a baby of National Action Network, as an organizer for the Justice League NYC, as Hazel Duke's baby girl. But before I'm any of that, I am the mother of a 16-year-old black boy who is a target for murder in this country every day that he walks outside the door. So I fight for him. Every morning when I get up, frustrated, feeling like my people are not always where they should be on these issues. Feeling like elected officials that we've sent to office are not doing their job. I still have to fight because I look across the table at a 16-year-old and I could be in the club of mothers who have lost their children. And I will not let that happen without me using my voice. Now, on April 13th of this year, the Justice League took off from New York City, Staten Island, walking to Washington, D.C., protesting against police violence. What we found was that there was a Mike Brown in every town. There was an Eric Garner in every corner. And we found that our people are oppressed and depressed. What we are saying is that you can't pay us off. You can't give us lip service. You can't tell us about new training because you can't train a racist. The only thing you can do is fire a racist and ensure that the rest of the racists know we are not going to have it here in this city and across this nation. So what we want is accountability. There are those who are telling us that firing one officer means nothing. It means a whole lot. That a man that put his hands around the neck of another man in our community and illegally choked him to death, that he be fired from the NYPD if the NYPD is to protect and serve us. So we want Daniel Pantaleo fired and all of his brothers and his sisters and all the other racists in the department, we want them fired too. Accountability is what we're calling for. You can't pay racism out of the department and out of all of the classist and sexist areas of American culture. And that's what they would rather do. So every time we leave, and I'm going, but every time we leave a Justice League gathering, we bring the sister Assata Shakur's voice into a meeting. So I want to leave you with this. It is our duty to fight. It is our duty to win. We have nothing to lose but our chains. God bless you, brothers and sisters.
Now we all see where Reverend Sharpton gets it from. The newly elected chair of the New York State Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic Legislative Caucus, who's been on the front lines fighting these issues in Albany for years. And we are proud that our brother Assemblyman Nick Perry from the 58th Assembly District in Brooklyn have elevated to the level of chair of the caucus. Not to mention, he, Reverend Sharpton, and I all went to Brooklyn College. Assemblyman, Chairman Nick Perry.
Good afternoon, everyone. I can't breathe. 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 Stopped breathing. 11 times a year ago, Eric Garner begged for his life with those words. How much time, how much longer do we have to say that to the powers that be? Our community is constantly being suffocated and the breath taken from us by the inequity of an unequal justice system that we have survived for the entire life of the United States. The prosecutor in Staten Island who failed to seek an indictment against the officer who killed Eric Garner was promoted. It didn't happen in Mississippi in the Deep South. It happened right here in New York, which is supposed to be the bastion of progressive politics. I can't breathe. We can't accept lip service any longer. It's time for real action, for real reform. We're here today to let the family know, the families of those who have lost sons and daughters to the misuse of deadly force by the police, are here, united with us, to let the powers that be know that we're not accepting lip service anymore. We want real reform. We need a prosecutorial conduct commission. We need a criminal justice system that recognizes that Black lives matter. On behalf of all my colleagues, I commend the families for working so hard, pushing so much pressure to get the special prosecutor appointed. That's a big step. And to paraphrase our vice president, I'd say it's a big deal for us. Hopefully the district attorney will use those powers. The attorney general will use those powers to ensure that we get justice and that in New York State, as we move forward, Black lives really matter. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I bring on our next speaker, I want to acknowledge, it's not just the criminal justice system where we need to make our voices heard that Black lives matter. It's also the education system. I went to public school all my life, here in the city of New York. And I want to acknowledge my 3rd and 5th grade teacher who is out in the crowd, Miss LePet, who is one of the people that started me on the road to pursuing justice. And she knew Black Lives Mattered when she was teaching us all those years ago. I want to bring on Miss Aaliyah Alessi from the New York Community for Change, another progressive grassroots organization fighting for justice here in the city, right alongside her.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Aaliyah, and I'm a member of NYCC. I'm sure if you look around you, you'll see a lot of orange in the house. I'd like to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to come here to speak today. What I would like to say to you is there is a plague in our communities. And this plague is taking off like a rocket. Now, we have a lot of injustices that's happening throughout the different boroughs. But Brooklyn is a poster child for a lot that's been happening. We go to all the different cities. We go to all the different states. And there's also a lot of problems in there. My thing is, growing up as a child, having a parent, your parent would grow old and the child would bury the parent. Today is not that. Parents are burying their kids, and this is not right. Now, we have to stand together and join with every different organizations you know of. You have all the mothers here who have lost their kids. If you don't know your neighbor next to you, you better know your neighbor now. Find out who your neighbor is. Communicate with each other. Look out for each other, because our communities are under siege. There is a chain that's going around the communities. The chain is, we have problems with housing. We have problems with education. We have problems, you name it, we got it. And on the chain, every link, you could hook the problem on it. Do not let these chains choke you. You cannot afford to let it do it. Where we come from, we say fight, fight, fight. And you got to stand together as one and fight. You have to join hands, speak to your neighbors, come together, group together, have meetings together, find out what is going on. The same way you go to church and listen to your minister is the same way you should be communicating with your neighbors and the kids in the neighborhood, because they are the future. Thank you very much. Take care.
One of the major issues we fight alongside police violence is community violence. We can't tell others to stop gunning us down and not do the same for ourselves. One of our partners, National Action Network, on the front line of this fight of community violence and youth violence and gang violence is my sister Aisha Sekou from Street Corner Resources.
Peace and blessings, family. My heart is hurting. My heart is hurting because as I hear the stories of these mothers who lost their children to gun violence at the hands of the police, or a choke at the hands of the police, I often think about all the mothers who lost their children at the hands of other young people behind or in front of the gun. So what I really want to say here is I don't want you to leave without thinking about the residual and collateral damage that we see as a result of one police violence. It creates a spirit in our communities, right in front of where young people live. I've heard too many stories. Miss Aisha, we can't stand in front of our building. We can't stand on our corner. We can't walk to the basketball game. We can't come home from the basketball game without some interaction with the police that is usually negative and with the assumption that they are doing something wrong. We cannot criminalize our children, parents, community members, elected officials, by agreeing with the fact that our kids are overly policed in the communities where they should feel safe and live. We have to call a stop to that. Our police officers should be trained better than that. There's a different way to find out when negative things are going on in the community. It's called real community policing. So I tell you that when our young people have to interact with the police on a daily basis, on the way to school, on the way to lunch, coming back from lunch, to the movies, the basketball game, that usually that kind of interaction leads to an arrest, leads to an assault, leads to a beat up, and oftentimes leads to death. Can you attest to that? So I want to call for a stop to all of this negative, criminalizing, policing that is going on with our children. It is enough that they are dealing with guns and gangs in their own community. And lastly, I have to say my concern is right in Texas right now. I have a grandson who's 18 years old, just went to college, a happy, momentous event. I should be happy, but I'm calling him early in the morning to make sure he made it through the night. When he told me, Grandma, we out and about, we at the movies, they took me to the club. I'm scared to death. And then I have to call the next day all over again to make sure my grandson is okay. And then I hear about this sister that was just found dead. So I'm just going to put it real short, that mothers and grandmothers shouldn't have to worry like this. We have to bring change. I thank God for the Youth Huddle, Reverend Al Sharpton, and all of the other people who are supporting our young people speak peace forward and call for justice for Eric Garner and others.
The young man I'm about to introduce has fought for justice in the legislative arena since he first got elected to the assembly some 8-10 years ago. He fought for accountability when the police were taking all of the data, the illegal data that they were collecting on people they were illegally stopping, and putting it into one big database in a computer. It was this young man's fight in Albany that changed the law, that got the NYPD to get rid of the electronic database on many of us in this crowd today. Now he's representing us in Congress, fighting for federal chokehold, anti-chokehold legislation in Congress. And we need to stand and support our brother, our Congressman Hakeem Jeffrey.
No justice, no justice. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today, standing with Wen Carr and the Garner family and all of the mothers who have suffered so much at the hands of injustice here in this great city and beyond, and certainly to stand here, not just with my colleagues in government, but with the Reverend Al Sharpton, the hardest working man in the people's business. And so we're thankful for his leadership here in this nation and all across the world. Now, 150 years ago, the Civil War ended. And certainly from that point in time, we've come a long way in America, but it's clear we still have a long way to go. And if we're going to try to bring our democracy to life, one of the things we've got to put an end to is police violence in America. Because it's a problem that afflicts us all across this great land. Police violence in Cleveland, police violence in North Charleston, police violence in Baltimore, police violence in Ferguson, and police violence right here in the city of New York. And don't let anyone tell you differently. We got a 5-borough police violence problem here in the Big Apple. Amadou Diallo in the Bronx, Sean Bell in Queens, Omar Edwards in Manhattan, Akai Gurley in Brooklyn, Eric Garner in Staten Island, and so many others. We got a 5-borough police violence problem here in New York City. And so, of course, we're here to deal with this injustice. I believe that the overwhelming majority of police officers are hardworking public servants who are there to protect and serve. But we can't turn a blind eye to what has occurred. And that's what some in this city want us to do. I can't understand. A year later, Eric Garner is dead. The person who took the video is under criminal prosecution, and the police officer is still on the NYPD payroll. There's something wrong with that picture. There's something wrong with that picture. There's something wrong with that picture. And so in the name of Eric Garner, there's a few things, and so many other victims. There's in the name of Eric Garner and all of the victims, there's a few things we've got to be able to do as we march forward from this moment. In the name of those victims of police violence, we've got to end broken windows policing that unnecessarily targets people in communities of color for things like riding a bicycle on a sidewalk, taking up 2 seats in a subway car, or having an open container on your front porch during a hot summer night. Over criminalization of our communities. In the name of Eric Garner, we're going to make the use of a chokehold illegal under federal civil rights law because it's an unnecessary, uncivilized, unreasonable procedure, and we're going to make it unlawful. And lastly, we're just going to continue to press, whether it's for Romali Graham in the Southern District of New York or Eric Garner here in the Eastern District of New York, continue to press to make sure that those officers responsible for the deaths of these young men are prosecuted to the full extent of the law. I don't understand. The medical examiner ruled the death a homicide. The chokehold was unauthorized under the NYPD's procedures for more than 20 years. He said 11 different times, "I can't breathe." And on 11 different occasions, those around him failed to come to his aid, and it was all caught on videotape. And that video is living, breathing, probable cause that a crime took place. And we're not going to rest until the prosecution occurs because we believe in equal protection under the law for everyone, because Black lives matter, Asian lives matter, Latino lives matter, white lives matter, officer lives matter, civilian lives matter, Christian lives matter, Muslim lives matter, Jewish lives matter. We are not going to rest until it's clear in the United
Martin and the mother of Michael Brown, Leslie McSpadden, stand and watch these mothers stand together.